Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Point of personal privilege, guest in the gallery. And then I'd also like to request that my remarks of more than 200 words be entered into the journal.
Proceed.
Members, I would like to introduce a very special guest who has been joined today by several of his closest friends. Up in the gallery, we have many of the members of the 9/11 for Truth group, people who are asking for a new, independent investigation of the attacks of 9/11/2001. In particular, I would like to introduce to you a very, very courageous man named Blair Gadsby. I'm going to ask the folks with Blair to help him stand as I tell you just a little bit about him. Blair is very weak because he has been fasting for more than 2 weeks to try to bring attention to the cause of 9/11 truth. This is the 16th day that Blair has gone without food and spent his day outside the office of U.S. Senator John McCain, pleading with the senator to take a look at new evidence of the 9/11 crimes. We have one man here who is sacrificing his own personal needs and desires to stand boldly, pleading for the world to take notice, to question, to research, and not place their lives in the hands of media sound bites, to think for themselves consciously and critically. Blair is an educator, and to me this is what great educators do. Thousands of people all over the country, and actually around the world, have been watching on the internet as this hunger strike progresses here in Phoenix. I want Blair to know that I am one of his biggest fans, and that good people everywhere admire him for his courage and determination. Please give a warm welcome to Blair Gadsby and the 9/11 Truth Movement.
Welcome to the Senate.
Mr. President, if I might continue.
Proceed.
Last month, I started speaking publicly regarding my concerns about the attacks of September 11th, 2001, which brought down the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, as well as Building 7. If you've watched the media coverage since I first began to speak out, you know how vicious and irrational it has been towards me. The media have worked hard to try to make it seem silly to even question the 9/11 Commission report, even though some of its own authors have done so, including both of the Commission co-chairmen, Mr. Hamilton and Keene. Actually, the 9/11 Commission report represents just one theory, the theory that fire and the damage from the airplane impacts brought down the 3 buildings. This theory explains none of the features of the destruction that we all witnessed that day and which we can still observe on hundreds of videos. It explains nothing about how in 4 of 4 cases, no hijacking code was transmitted by the hijacked airliners. And in 4 of 4 cases, no fighter jets managed to get alongside any of the hijacked airliners. The military officers who lied to Congress about their failure to protect America would have been referred for prosecution by some of the 9/11 commissioners, but those commissioners were told that they did not have that authority. The events of that day were a heinous crime. They were against our nation and our citizens, and the sense of justice that exists in each of us demands to know what really happened and how all the perpetrators will be caught and punished. The speculation and theorizing won't end until a thorough, transparent investigation, free of conflicts of interest, takes place. Among the many theories that you can find on the internet is one that rises above all the rest. It is rock solid, confirmed by hard evidence, and supported by hundreds of scholars, architects, engineers, and other professionals who have the education, training, and expertise to know what they're talking about. This is the theory that explosive demolitions brought down the Twin Towers and Building 7. I've placed a handout on each of your desks inside of the manila folder, and that has a photo of one of the towers as it begins to collapse. I'd like you to take a look at that photo, if you will. Notice in that picture that you see steel beams being flung outward from the building and great huge clouds of dust that is actually pulverized concrete. A building that falls down doesn't pulverize itself into dust as it drops. Imagine dropping a chunk of concrete 30 feet or more. Is it going to fall into dust? No. Yet the concrete in the towers was blasted into powder that covered all of Manhattan. Think about this now. You can see that powder already being formed long before that upper section has fallen more than a few floors. As you look at that photo, ask yourself, is this a picture of a building collapsing, or is this a picture of a building exploding? Does a building that collapses have the ability to fling its own steel beams sideways up to 600 feet? Does a building that is just starting to collapse blast its contents outwards in a massive cloud of dust? What do you see in the photo? I see an explosion, and so do millions of other people who are demanding a real investigation. More important than simply looking at a photo, engineers, architects, and scientists have evaluated the rubble at ground zero and other aspects of the buildings, and they have found evidence of at least 15 different characteristics of explosion. These 15 characteristics are listed on the handout as well. Despite the media's outrageous attacks on my sanity, intelligence, and patriotism, the emails and phone calls to my office have been 95% supportive of my request for a new investigation. I've been amazed, really, to see just how overwhelmingly the public rejects the official reports, not only of the 9/11 Commission, but also those of FEMA and NIST, which is your National Institute of Science and Technology. I assumed that expressing skepticism about the official story of 9/11 would be a punishing issue for an elected official, but I'm finding that it's quite the opposite. The public wants its leaders to stand up and be counted when it appears that something is wrong. The truth will set you free. Blair Gadsby and my guests today want the truth about 9/11. The American people want the truth about 9/11. They want an independent investigation, and so do I. I have provided each of you with a DVD entitled Improbable Collapse. I'm hopeful that you will watch it with an open mind, and that you'll also study some of the wonderful, well-researched articles on the internet. I've included a list of the most credible websites with your handout. You don't have to embrace every theory about 9/11. Indeed, there are some that should be soundly rejected. But if you believe, as these scientists, architects, and engineers do, that the buildings were brought down by explosive demolition, then you must also agree that we need a new independent investigation. I have no preconceived notions about who did it, and I'm not pointing the finger of blame at anyone, but I do think that the worst attack on U.S. soil in American history deserves the best investigation possible. And that is not going to happen until people like us begin to speak out. The families of the nearly 3,000 people who died on September 11th, and the families of those who have been poisoned and died from the toxic residue that hung in the air for weeks afterward during the cleanup operation, they deserve to know what killed their loved ones. If anyone else was involved in the planning and implementation of these attacks, then they need to be brought to justice. I ask you to study the material I have given you, and then join me in a call for a new independent investigation. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. You know, we don't permit applause in the gallery. Thank you.